Hi, everybody. This is Giovanna Franklin from Evolutionary Homeopathy. And evolutionary homeopathy are the two words, the two keywords for this interview, because we have Vanessa Morgan, homeopath, qualified acupuncturist, and snake venom lady who is just back from the Conscious Life Expo at Los Angeles Airport, which was last weekend. So today is the 28th of February. And so it was last weekend. And by the way, today is a great day. It's a planetary parade for those who haven't noticed. So it's a very interesting day. I don't know what the planetary parade is going to bring us, but it sure is going to be interesting. So anyway, I wanted to talk to Vanessa because she was there. She was at the Conscious Life Expo, which is a huge gathering that they do every year of everything conscious, everything out there, everything complementary therapies, all sorts of spiritual, interesting things, and even with a panel of amazing big people there, speakers, engagements, events, crystal healers, and all sorts of other modalities. Vanessa was still probably the only homeopath there. And that's what I mean by the evolution of homeopathy, because in my conversation with Vanessa just before jumping on this interview, yes, we realized that homeopaths tend to go to gatherings with other homeopaths, schools and symposiums and other things that only contain it's kind of like a closed shop in a way, and we tend to be in our own little homeopathic bubble. And I think that if we really want to evolve, we need to mingle a little bit, not because homeopathy is not good enough and we need other things, but because, like everything else, we are evolving and homeopathy is evolving. So I'm really grateful that Vanessa went and she's going to tell us what she brought, what gifts she brought to the expo, and what the experience was. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's always so fun for us to connect and explore some of these topics and how it does feel like to me things really are evolving pretty rapidly. So, here I am, not really hiding out, but in my very rural existence here in northern New Mexico. So, as we know, the word synchronicity does seem to be lit up in neon blinking the past 6 months or so. I would say since the fall. And so part of all that, and us collaborating together to work with the turquoise, which I know we're going to talk more about. One of the things was I was gifted this archaeological tour of the Southwest. And I feel like that really reopened doors for me from my past of living in this region, the Southwest region, a good part of my life. And there are these sacred places throughout the world, and they do offer a way to connect, I think, with the greater cosmos. So on that tour, I met this woman who lives in Los Angeles, and she's actually the president of that group Cover. And we got to know each other a little bit. She's created tons of, wonderful books, and she's well into crystals and stuff. And as I showed you earlier, she gifted me with this like a tarot deck that's all about your crystal allies. And so that brought in like our a gemstone connection with her. So when I share with her about, the turquoise and also the venom work that I've been doing, she said, "You need to come to the expo." And then at first I was like, thousands of people, and just energetically, it's a lot. So but as I thought about it and as the time drew closer, and I thought, this really is an amazing opportunity for me. And as we said, yeah, I was curious to see what's the read on this conscious movement, right? Because sort of anybody who is anybody in that space definitely goes to this event. It's been happening, I don't know, 20, 25 years, and it's at the LAX Hilton. And you walk in, the entire lobby is taken over. They had, kind of like music and different kind of entertainment. So it was like a gathering space. And then literally two massive floors of just booth after booth after booth, workshops happening, uh, yeah, all kinds of different events and panels. And it was everything from, what people would use the word, say new age, but it felt really different than this kind of fringe thing to me. Like there were people with all kinds of like healing devices, and there was like people doing astrology and tarot and other kinds of readings and different kinds of energy healing, and then like food um and yeah, there were body workers, in one area. So you could, I mean, whatever you were drawn to, you could kind of tap into that. It was definitely all there. So I had, my little area on our table with the turquoise remedy and the, information about that, and then the snake venom and homeoprophylaxis. So that was my little kind of trifecta of offering. And, I thought it would be a really good experience for me to like take that next bigger step because, as we were discussing, we've done a lot in this past year to, organize things and get ready to bring this forward more and more because there is a need. I certainly see the need for it within my immediate patient population and people I interact with in my community. But again, I wanted to like expand that out one step further. And in fact, I had just amazing conversations with so many, I would just say, beautiful souls and very aware and switched on, and not coming from this place of being like really just naive and seeking and just starting to open up into say higher consciousness or healing, but yeah, people that were already like well on that path. And so it really was really exciting and engaging, um, to to go and to participate. So that's sort of the beginning of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as you mentioned, this fringe movement has started as a fringe movement. It's not so fringy anymore. It's becoming more and more mainstream because between the, trust the science has basically crumbled and um, but also with the with technology, with the rediscoveries, even in modern science about the value, the power of frequency and frequency healing. and what frequencies actually are. And so there is, we're in this weird but really exciting transition period where there is solid research because there were people like Brian Ardis speaking at the Expo, like solid medical research, and including what you have done with the snake venom, incidentally, but also, let's say, mixed in with a higher awareness, a higher consciousness of people who may not be into the research or having exact data, but who intuitively
Yeah,
know that something is shifting, that we're on the verge of something better, something new, something that can really help humanity at all levels. And yes, and we can choose the means, the modalities that we know that we're familiar with, but we're definitely mixing these two things that used to be so completely separate. And it would be unthinkable to have medical doctors mixing in with tarot readers or energy healers.
yeah,
And that's why I'm so really happy that you were there, because homeopathy, I feel, is still kind of digging their heels sometimes into the traditional, into the familiar, and we're just talking to each other all the time. And
yeah,
I do feel we have to really go into the world and share and like I said, and mingle. So
yeah,
yeah.
and step forward. But how, to me, spirit and matter, or, yeah, physical, non-physical, however you want to look at it. I remember in the 70s discussions about the day when science and spirituality would merge. But I'm here to say, for whatever it's worth, they have, and there was such a feeling of love and connection, even with people that you never knew, or maybe you wouldn't necessarily interact with in your everyday life. It was really beautiful. There was a very positive feeling, because I know for a lot of people too, since the COVID debacle, like there's a fear of like even going out or traveling. And of course, in America, the gun violence and all the crazy stuff. It's like, I never once felt anything weird or uncomfortable or in any way, say, unsafe, um, amidst literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I mean, someone mentioned, how many people were there, and I mean, I wouldn't even want to quote it, but I mean, yeah, there were there was a lot of people there, and there was just this harmony that existed. And I want to just, share an example, because again, we just keep talking about how I feel like my life is just this series of obvious synchronicities at this point. But I was walking around, like part of the day I would walk around because I wanted to see what was out there, and yeah, what was the vibe, and who was drawn to this event in terms of sharing and receiving, giving and receiving. And so I walked up to this one booth and I saw this beautiful logo of a snake, of this snake inside like a geometric configuration. And then here's this lovely woman, young woman standing there, and she has, the a tattoo of that same thing like on her chest. And I said, I just was appreciated her logo, and we started talking. And all of a sudden, she's also part of this nonprofit, um, in like the Yucca Valley, which is not far from Palm Springs and not too far from Los Angeles, and Joshua Tree. And she said, we have an organization and it's for supporting, you know, the indigenous, the missing women and children, particularly focusing in the indigenous community. And of course, I've been involved with that here where I live. And, anyway, it was just they're having a fundraiser. And I have this painting that I was, gifted, which is a symbol of, a Native woman with the red hand over the mouth. And, I mean, that was just one example of just how who every who I was supposed to meet and connect with, it just occurred. So anyway, my phone rings and the woman that invited me to participate said, "You need to come down to the booth immediately. There's a woman here that needs to speak to you." So I said, "Okay, I'll be right back." And I went down and sat with this woman. And how she ended up coming there was that a psychic reader, 2 floors up, again, with thousands of people there, she had spoken with this woman the day before about something that seemed very distressing to her, which was this recurring dream of being bitten by a poisonous animal. She described it as an animal. And it turned out that the snake remedy, and I won't disclose a lot of, her personal story, it was so applicable. But anyway, this psychic reader had said to her, there's somebody down the area I was in was called the rabbit hole. She said, there's somebody in the rabbit hole that has the answer for you. Now, previously, you might have just rolled your eyes and been like, that's just total, like, woo woo, whatever. And the woman had come down that day and saw the picture, our symbol of the snake with the snake remedy. And she had come by a few times, and it was obvious that we were supposed to meet and talk. And the insights that I was able to share with her was exactly what she needed to support her on her healing journey. And, when I first began this exploration of working with the venom remedies based on the work of Brian Artis, who I got to meet there, which was also really great. Um, that I did see it as, and it is a solution for, support with long haul COVID and the vaccine injury, no question. But as I've been dispensing that remedy over the last almost 4 years now, it's become obvious that it's so much more than that. And it really is a consciousness expanding tool, the remedy. And, we've talked at length and shared on some of our previous recordings about the qualities of snake and so forth. But one of them is for people like setting clear boundaries, right? That doctrine of signatures. Poisonous snakes aren't just like waiting there to jump out and kill us, but if they're encroached upon and their life, it seems threatened, you know, like a rattlesnake will, rattle his tail and say, back off, right? And so many people have reported that type of clarity coming into their lives and taking their power back and so forth. And so, and that was one of the things that, that this woman really needed to connect with. So, point being, some of the things that we're led to and that we start with, that is the evolutionary piece, is that we have no idea where it's headed. But we just have to keep, we have to like step on that path and just begin to walk along. And I was able to speak to a couple practitioners that were like maybe a little familiar with homeoprophylaxis, but then, I was able to share about Kate Birch's work and my work, with homeoprophylaxis, not just for COVID, but throughout the years. And then the turquoise and just the beauty of that to me also being so relevant to what's going on. Like I didn't have the copy, of your full proving, but I did have, that sort of preliminary list, that we had compiled
Mhm.
right after the workshop. And I had that there for people to read, and people would read it and they would be like, that just seems so relevant for me right now. And um, so I really saw that, by going there, that there is definitely a strong place for what is evolving within homeopathy to meet the needs of where people are at right now. And it was super inspiring. It was really inspiring. And I'll just share one other kind of amazing synchronicity that to me validates the path that you and I are kind of sharing, parts of that at this point. Was I went to breakfast the first morning and I sat down and I walked past these two gentlemen, and this guy has a shirt on, a t-shirt with a picture of Moldavite on it, right? And I know you've worked with Moldavite. I've worked with it in the past, and it's a very powerful gemstone. And it's not for everybody, let's just say. But I was like, oh, that's cool, and then I sat down. And then, at first I was like, oh, I want to talk to them more, then this other, little voice comes in, oh, don't bother them. They're having breakfast, and just, and then, when something like keeps persisting, in me, then it was like, so that's what happened. So I got up and I went over and I said, I hope I'm not disturbing your breakfast, but, I just wanted to talk to you about Moldavite. And then I said, and they both lit up. They were quite happy for me to be there. And And then I said, I have a colleague who lives in Scotland, and we just had an amazing experience actually making a medicine from turquoise. And they lit up, and the younger gentleman said, he goes, you won't believe how synchronistic this is. He said, we were just at the Gem and Mineral Show in Tucson, Arizona, and he ran into a friend, and that's exactly what they're focusing on, is making medicine from gemstones and using nanoparticle technology. And I know a little bit about that in terms of certain supplements and things, but I hadn't heard of anybody working with it with gemstones. And then he's like, you need to meet this guy, and da 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 da. And then I said, well, we are continuing to explore like what other remedies are being called forward right now, especially with the C5 development of the titration as well. And they totally love the fact that I went over there and spoke to them. And then they said they invited me to their booth, and they want to collaborate with us, and they want to donate some moldavite for us to use to make a remedy from. You know what I mean? And
Oh,
then I connect with you, right? Because I was all excited. I was like, gee, you should be here. And then you pull out that you're wearing, you said, oh, 2 or 3 days ago, I put my Moldavite necklace on, and it's like, to me, these are just these little connectors that are reinforcing, this evolution, right? And and so that was super sweet. And then the older gentleman is this amazing jewelry maker, and I sent you a bunch of his work. And then I was really drawn, to this, right? And and so the more he and I talked and stuff, not only wanted to support him, but I felt like this wanted to come and be with me. And then he said, well, here's some information about this. And as I read through it, again, it was completely relevant. And it said, well, this is a stone. Um, and I had to just keep asking him to remind me what it was because, um,
It's a blue
it's,
obsidian, isn't it?
yeah, it's a rare, I guess blue obsidian is quite rare. So, but it has a relationship um to Archangel Michael, which in the fall, another one of the synchronicities was that someone gave me a book that was brought through by a woman, and it was a lot of information from Archangel Michael about the Four Corners area. So anyway, it was just like, okay, I not really I surrender, but like I'm open to experiencing this and not let my mind, try to just, make it more than it needs to be or less than it needs to be, but definitely part
Just be present. It's just about being
of what
present
is
and
right now.
following the breadcrumbs.
Exactly. That's what I keep saying to people. It's like I feel like I'm following the yellow brick road. And it's really beautiful because I feel like it is being supported by something bigger than us and something that is supporting the evolution that is taking place right now. And I loved what you were sharing a few minutes ago because also, there were a lot of people there at the expo that were into like ETs and of course all this, coming out about disclosure and is that going to happen? Isn't that going to happen? And from the government, well, there were so many people there, and even a few people I talked to about that were like, we don't care about the government disclosing and validating something that, like, this gentleman right here who's giving a talk at 3 o'clock has been doing research with this for like 25, 30 years. It's like, you know, anyway, people are talking about living this new earth concept and bringing it through. And I really felt that community there, again, in different ways. We might not all be interested in every single, topic or thing that was offered, but it was like people just accessing their own inner knowing and their own like qualified research in a particular area and
Mhm.
not waiting for something outside of them to tell them that
Yes.
that's okay or that
Mhm.
that is in fact truth. And I see that as a very positive step forward, in medicine and healing and consciousness and all of these areas. It was great.
Yes, definitely. It's palpable. All the shifts and all the changes are coming from the people. They're coming from the roots up. And it's actually beautiful to see. And it's whether some people believe it or not, but that's the Aquarian age. And we may be already in it. We may be on the verge. I don't know. There is no agreement there, but definitely it's happening. I feel that there is this, like I said, it's a transition period, and what we can do in our own small way is to support and maybe help push for these changes to maybe to come faster or to facilitate. Yeah, I think this is what our generation, those who are alive right now, we are we're the facilitators, we're the midwives. We may not see the fruits of all this effort in our lifetime, but we are definitely here to facilitate and to help out. So this is at least what I don't know if it doesn't sound too arrogant, but I feel this is what we are called to do as healers, whatever modality we
Absolutely.
are we're choosing. And even if we're not healers, just as people recognize our own power, our own true path, and some remedies can help us. I always felt intuitively that gemstones and crystals can help us with that, but I didn't know how
Right.
growing up. And now I feel like I'm getting more clarity about the role of gemstones with homeopathy. And that's also why I like to expand. And the the books that I've written so far, it's only two and very, very small books, but my goal has always been to make them readable, easy, understandable. They're not for homeopaths per se. They're not for people who are already expert in homeopathy. They're for those who are curious, who love gemstones in general. There's a massive I wanted to create a bridge between homeopathy and gemstones in
Mhm.
homeopathy and the massive field of crystal healing, which has been there for absolutely forever. And homeopathy, for some reason, has been kind of late to the party in terms of recognizing the healing properties of gemstones, maybe not wanting to be confused with crystal healers because there was such a stigma about that for the longest time, with all, the woo-woo stuff and it's too out there, etc. And I wanted to create a bridge between these two because, yes, I do believe that if you turn a crystal, which does have healing properties, but if you turn it into a homeopathic remedy, the healing properties will be amplified. And that's true of every substance. And that's why, herbs, arnica is great as a herbal remedy. You turn it into a homeopathic remedy, the healing properties are greatly amplified on a physical, on the emotional, on a spiritual level. This is what homeopathy does. It's an alchemical process. And yes, and also regaining, yes, reclaiming the word alchemy. It's not a dirty word. It's not a synonym for whatever negative witchcraft or whatever it is. It's a process. It's a natural physiological process. Do we understand it? Me personally, no. All I can do is observe it and see what it does and what the effects are. I don't know how it works. I don't know why it works. That's what we did with the trituration. We just recorded what happened to us first as we were triturating the remedy, and then with the proving to the people who took the remedy, and we're still observing. So I'm really grateful to all those who have bought the C5 remedy from myself, from Vanessa, who are still trying because it's a brand new remedy. And so we're still trying, we're still testing, we're still observing. And but because it's in C5, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, uh, it's all in the book. And this is the book um, where I go through the different levels of trituration. So turquoise, yes, it exists as a remedy already in homeopathy, but it's the traditional trituration level, the C3. Perhaps there is a C4 somewhere. But definitely not a C5. And this was the first time. And this is the consciousness, the collective consciousness level, because I really have, like, I think a lot of us have been feeling this.
Absolutely.
This rise of collective consciousness, where a lot of us are thinking the same, not in a Borg kind of way, but more in a sharing our consciousness almost telepathically. There is a talk of this new human who is going to emerge. Our DNA is changing. How much we can feel other people's feelings and suffering, how much more empathic we are. So this, I thought that this was really fitting. And again, just like your experience, Vanessa, it was all about synchronicity, and the whole process of coming to turquoise was a tale of synchronicity, and all I had to do was following the yellow
Yeah,
brick road.
keep showing up and meeting, the
Yeah.
opportunities that were unfolding. And I think that is, again, this co-creative process, because one thing I do think is really shifting too is, a lot of the ways we were raised, right, in many cultures, but it's that, this thing of like every man for himself and the nuclear family, and you're in this kind of isolate. I mean, you could be part of a community depending on what you live, but at the end of the day, it was like, just nope, the father's responsible for this, and the mother's responsible for that, and this, in a way, very limited existence. And from the moment that these synchronicities unfolded, and again, we have spoken about this before, but like the ease through which this came together, it's like, oh, we'll make this little video and you can share it there, and we'll do this part and you did that part, and how it really did just flow pretty effortlessly. I mean, I have organized things most of my adult life, and sometimes, there's a lot more challenges along the way. And that was also very affirming to me that, yeah, we are showing up to be a part of something that needs to come through for the benefit of humanity. And again, that was something that I experienced at this, like, even just getting in an elevator, like, in
Mhm.
this big hotel, like everybody just felt, just a lot of joy and a lot of ease. And I mean, I even had like a moment with someone in a restroom, we're washing our hands and we just looked over at each other, and this woman was like, isn't this incredible? She goes, I could come here and I don't have to feel weird or strange or, outside of, the
Mhm.
normal society and how it's been functioning. I think there's many of us that just have felt for a long time that, life can be different and it can be more, more supportive and more integrated with all life, with all of life. And she said, I really wanted to come last year and I wasn't able to. And she basically was saying, like, just coming there, whether she had a reading or bought anything or whatever, just going there was a healing experience, to see, again, thousands and thousands and thousands of people where
Mhm.
this is also their path, again, whatever that path might be, but how connected, everyone could be within that. It was really, yeah, I mean, I really came away feeling very inspired, despite, again, a lot of what's unfolding, um,
Yeah.
in those old paradigms. that is either just dissolving, and also revealing, and the chaos, that chaotic period that things appear to be in. And in the midst of that, there we were sharing what we all have connected with. And it was really great. It was really great. And there was a tolerance as well, like
Yes. Yeah.
like I might not have wanted to go hear this particular talk or this particular topic, but there wasn't anything in me that felt an intolerance to that, or like that shouldn't be happening, or I don't want to
Hmm.
associate with that. It was, and that
Yes. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was very cool too. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but homeopathy is, there have been different cycles. Like there was a renaissance of medicinal herbal medicine in America in like the 70s, kind of part of that back to the land movement that was taking place. And homeopathy, I think, because there has been a lot done to create, paint a negative narrative, or, oh, that's just placebo, or, discounting that. But I definitely see also since COVID, the launch of that movie that came out right after um, um, RFK was whatever, not ratified, but approved in as the health secretary. But that, yeah, that homeopathy is becoming more visible again in a generalized way. So I was surprised that there wasn't more offered at that symposium, but I did feel good that I could just kind of like put that little flag in the ground there, and talk, and people really like connected with the concept
Yes.
very readily that I spoke to. And even, I mean, I didn't go too deep into the difference between C5 and C3, but with the people that I did, they really seem to get that, or like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Because I know a lot of people in the frequency generator world,
Hmm.
right? In the last few years, more and more, I keep hearing where they're like, well, so much has shifted that they need to adjust and recalibrate a lot of the frequencies that
Yes.
had been working for decades.
Yeah.
And because we are changing, then the needs of, again, of that medicine, it makes sense to me that when C3 was brought through, when Samuel Hahnemann developed homeopathy, that was meeting people at the level of
Yes.
consciousness that they were at. And we are no longer there. We have moved on in the last 200 and some years. So it makes sense to me that, how we, chemically produce, or, provide for the remedy and the titration. In every form of medicine, things need to evolve to meet the needs of the times. We see so many examples of
Yes.
that. Chinese medicine, because it has, many, well, hundreds, if not thousands of years of development. It's like a situation comes along, and then the great minds of the time, they all get together and they're like, okay, we got a situation here. What do we need to do? And then, necessity is the mother of invention, right? Then that will cause them to have to look at something from a different angle, or develop a different understanding about how to deal with that challenge. And I feel that COVID did, um, for all the sort of pros, cons, positive, negative, if you look at it that way, it's brought a lot of things forward. It's brought a lot of things forward. And so
Yes,
it
yes.
is
It made us realize that first of all that we need the truth. People are looking for the truth on every level, in every field, and we're looking for something that's real. And so
and
all
things
the
that
yeah,
work. I mean,
yeah, exactly,
the
exactly.
proof
Yes,
is in the proving, like,
yes,
and
absolutely.
and enough people now. I mean, like I shared with you the Wednesday before, I was going to this trip and, getting everything organized for that and then doing all my clinical work and then I'm running this course online and, it's a lot of balls in the air and everything and all the things that are being revealed and disclosed and a lot of it is, very very deep. And anyway, I woke up on that Wednesday before, and I just was in it. I was just really feeling a lot and just physically did not feel well. And I made it through the morning with my responsibilities and then I was just like, I physically need to lie down because yeah, I couldn't push through that and it wasn't appropriate. And I just felt in and I was like, how can I support myself right now? And I just got take a dose of the turquoise. And I did. I laid down for a little over an hour and I could literally just feel um yeah, things just clearing from all my systems, my nervous system, physically just the weight of everything and emotionally my mind just cleared and I was like wow like yeah like
It's a great
yeah
grounding remedy, and yes, and it gives you
and
so much
clearing.
clarity and peace of
I
mind.
felt I
Yes,
felt so at peace. It was really amazing. Yeah, and
yes.
then like I said, I got up, I took a drink of water, I had a consultation that I had to do, and then I taught a class that night, and I was just like, what I call like back to base, it just like
Mm.
brought me right back to myself and to balance and I didn't take a bunch of other stuff or anything else really. And so, it was very, very noticeable. So I'm excited about the the evolution of the gemstone work in C5 and very excited for what you're going to be developing in that area because yeah, I really think it's appropriate. And then the whole thing that came up in the proving around conflict resolution.
Yes, yes.
Hello,
Yeah, yeah.
and how we have had a couple of families, yeah, like, just family members taking the remedy and having it ripple out, into their entire family system. So I think there's so much potential untapped, within this group of remedies. And yeah, I'm really grateful for, everything I've learned from you so far, like just, the titration process. And, I look forward to teaching more people how to make the medicine, right?
Yes. Yeah,
I
yeah.
it's great that we
Yeah.
can stock our pharmacies from, bigger pharmacies that are producing, but I really felt something very powerful about making it and knowing how to make it. Um, and yeah, that was very empowering as well.
Yes, that's definitely an experience that we want to share, that we want to make available to other people. So yeah, watch this space.
We've got a few ideas up our sleeves, but I love this idea of, yeah, medicine makers, course, to get more people really that feel drawn to this area to have the skills that they need to do further research. I think it's
Yeah.
it's really, really exciting. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So I will put in the description all the details on how to find Vanessa's website and the next amazing course, which is going to be in May about snake venom. So I would really, really recommend everybody to go and join and sign up to the course because if nothing else, because it's nobody else is doing this, okay? And it is needed. It is definitely needed. And you also have your Substack.
Yes, yeah, that's been fun. And we've been starting to interview people, other people doing wonderful things. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna pretty much take the month of March and I'm, reorganizing all my material. We're updating it. We have a lot more case histories and, other information to share around the venom and utilizing it. And so, yeah, we're going to be offering that live online in May. The last two, I think it's Mondays, we're going to do it, and then the first 2 weeks of June. So we'll be all complete with that by the summer solstice. And yeah, there's a lot of good things happening this year, I feel like, that are coming together. And I'm hearing that from a lot of people, things that we've been like chipping away and working along and, you know, yeah, doing the work. And that, this year a lot of things are coming forward. And that's also really, really exciting. Like where do we want to put our focus? I personally have no interest in putting my focus on what appears to be not working in the world. You know what I mean? But
Yes. Yeah,
to
yeah.
put my focus on however I am guided to contribute and also, yeah, like I really have been, sitting with a lot this thing about be the change. The Calvary is not coming, that we really are those that are, supporting this transition to come into realization. So yeah, I'm just interested in like, um, yeah, what do I want the world to be? And how can I, express that just very simply in my daily day-to-day life and in some of these bigger projects as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll put all the details in the description, including my Patreon and where to find my book and the turquoise and all of Vanessa's details and information. So yeah, I think that's everything. So thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And yeah, I wish I was there, but I'm glad that you you went there to represent homeopathy for us. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah. Yeah. I look forward to next year and I'm gonna kidnap you and take you with me.
Yes, we're definitely going to meet up. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you at the next one.
Okay, bye.